Hi, I'm Steve Myers, candidate for mayor of Baton Rouge. With apologies to Grantland Rice. Outlined against the blue-gray October sky, the four horsemen rode again. In dramatic lore, they are known as famine, pestilence, destruction, and death. These are only aliases. In Baton Rouge, their real names are traffic, crime, intolerance, and the erosion of property rights. We're going to attack these four demons in a Myers administration until they are controlled. And we're going to make Baton Rouge a nice place to live.
Okay, we've heard a lot about traffic and crime in this campaign, and we've talked about property rights in several contexts. Today we're going to cover property rights in conjunction with another problem you just heard about in the poem, intolerance. That's one of the four horsemen of Baton Rouge in my view. But the intolerance we're talking about today concerns who the government says you can and cannot live with. As I travel and speak to groups, I see how many in the crowd can actually recite the definition of family as set forth in the Unified Development Code. I get these blank stares and then maybe one or two hands are raised. And it's surprising because the people at these homeowners meetings are usually the most informed voters. It kind of exemplifies why we have too many laws and people don't know the laws. So that makes them pretty easy to violate. I mean, if they don't know the definition of family, how can you violate, or not, how do you know whether you're violating the law? But the definition of family in the Unified Development Code is really ridiculous, and the consequence are things like this. It would prevent 3 nuns or retired priests from living together in Baton Rouge. I'd call that somewhat intolerant. To understand the issue of who can live together in Baton Rouge, you need to understand density and zoning. No one argues the need for some zoning restrictions. Remember, we have limits on the way you can use your private property, defined by things like commercial, industrial, and residential. But there are dozens of zoning classifications, and within the residential category are even more subcategories. For example, the current Unified Development Code, the UDC, may contain 10 or 11 A zones, which is all residential, where people live. A1 is the least dense, but it's defined as 4.1 living units per acre. So that's your typical subdivision lot and your typical suburban house. It goes up to A2, which is 5.8 units per acre, A2.6, A2.7, maybe 7 to 11 units per acre. A2.9 may allow family residences that are duplexes or perhaps fourplexes. It goes up to A3.2, 17 units per acre, and up to A5, which is 87.1 living units per acre. That's essentially a high-rise apartment or some other kind of complex. What we need to understand is that all of these density guidelines are based on the number of units per acre in a particular zoning area. But the city goes beyond that. They try to control not just the number of units per acre, but who lives within each one of those units. So in order to understand whether you're legal or not, you need to apply a second element to the zoning question, and that is by looking at who lives in each unit. It's pretty clear that a family dwelling is a building that contains a living unit, and a multiple dwelling is a building that contains more than one living unit. So multifamily and single family are pretty easy to understand. Multifamily is a number of single family units together on the same lot or in the same complex, whereas single family is, again, based on 4.1 units per acre. That says nothing in and of itself about who can live in each of those family units. But the government tries to tell you who you can live with, and that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow, the definition of family.
We can make it happen if we make it Myers. I'm asking for your vote on November 6th, number 53 on the ballot.